Hi, everybody. Just another couple of minutes. People are logging in rapidly. Anki, we don't need to be on yet. We're just going to wait a minute.
Okay, I'll stop the video.
And yeah, so people, as you're logging in, that's great. And I'm thrilled when you're sharing where you're from in the Q&A, just welcoming everybody from all kinds of different parts of the world. So just bear with us another couple of minutes. We see more people logging in. I want to be sure that we've got everybody, or as many people as possible, as expected when we begin. Hey folks, we're going to get started in just a minute, so thanks for being patient. Again, if you haven't shared with us where you're from, please use the Q&A section to do that. We're thrilled that so many people are coming in from all over the United States and a number of other different countries. Stay tuned, we're going to be right with you. Thanks for being patient. One more minute, folks, and then we're going to be right with you. Thanks for your patience. Sorry for the delay. Good evening. Good evening from Jerusalem, that is. Welcome, everybody. We're just trying to look at a technical thing here. I hope you can see me. There we are. I see myself now. Jonathan Feldstein here. If you don't know me, or if I don't know you yet, I have the privilege of being the president of the Genesis 123 Foundation, the organization that's been hosting this tremendous series, Inspiration from Zion, where we're bringing you and connecting people from all over the world with interesting Israelis who have great stories and inspiring things to share with us. And I have to say, tonight is going to be for sure one of our best. I think they've all been great, but they're getting better and better. And this is one that I've been excited for about for weeks. I want to acknowledge, I know some people are having a hard time logging in. I'm getting text messages on my phone on this side and notices from some of the other participants that there's been a problem logging in. So I'm glad you're here. Don't log out. And hopefully others will be joining us shortly. And I see people are continuing to log in. So first, again, I want to thank our sponsors for today's program, the Atlanta Israel Coalition and Host Ministries. I especially want to thank the panelists today, who I will introduce momentarily, but for making time and for what I'm sure will be a really thoughtful and engaging conversation. Of course, anyone who wants to share this afterward, we'll be sending a video out, and we're always welcoming more sponsors for our future events. This is a series. The Inspiration from Zion is something that we launched earlier this year with the as a mission of the Genesis 123 Foundation. Hey, Beatie, we see you, but you don't need to be on yet. You can take a minute and just relax. There we go. She had some traffic, but we'll get you. Take a breath. We're glad you're here. But yeah, so the Genesis 123 Foundation's mission is to build bridges between Jews and Christians with Israel in ways that are new and unique and meaningful. And what that means is we're trying to do things that are just different, create bridges and engage people in ways that haven't been done yet. And this, we're very pleased that this is one of them. But also we're pleased in this, so you're going to get to meet some of our board members tonight, and others are participating as panelists, and others are participating just as observers today. We've got a great diverse board of Jews and Christians from all over the world. And one of the things that's so nice about that is that we all approach what unites us, the things that we find in common between Jews and Christians, but each with respect from our own respective traditions. We spend a lot of time talking about God of Israel, the land of Israel, the people of Israel, and of course the state of Israel. And so it's wonderful to have the privilege of being the president of the organization that's doing so much, and glad you could join us today, and hope you will continue in the future. Before we begin, I want to just ask you, as you have questions, which I hope you will, please use the Q&A section. And also, please, if you can, since we have 3 panelists today, identify who you're asking the question of, and in the form of a question. Sometimes people are making statements and I'm not sure if it's meant to be a question or not. So just ask it as a question and let us know who you are interested in hearing the answer from, and we will do our best to get through as many of the questions through the time allotted this evening. And honestly, because this is unique, in just a moment before I introduce the panelists, this is the first time that we've done 3 different people. So I really have to admit, we're well prepared, but I have no idea how this is going to go. So bear with us. We've got 3 fabulous people, and I'm looking forward to having the privilege of engaging each of them directly, but also that they can dialogue because they have something in common, connecting them as Israelis and with the Olympics. So with that, let me just start, and they can, oops, there we go. They can start turning on their cameras and microphones as they're introduced. First, we have Anki Spitzer. Anki's a fabulous woman. I've known of her for a very long time through mutual connections, and also a sad part of our history. She's the widow of Andre Spitzer, who was the fencing coach of the 1972 Israel Olympic team. Andre, unfortunately, and 10 other Israeli Olympians were murdered by the terrorists. If you're not familiar with the background, we will share that with you, and we're grateful that you're here, Anki. We timed tonight's program smack in the middle of the secular anniversary of the attack on September 5th, and the I love your medals, Ori, and the Hebrew anniversary, which is taking place this coming week. So we're really thrilled you're here. Anki is a Dutch native. She has been in Israel since the early 70s. I don't know how much of her story we're going to get into tonight, but I had the privilege of speaking about really the love story that brought her here, connecting to the land, and of course with Andre. She's a Dutch native, and for the last 30 years has served as the correspondent for Dutch and Belgian television and radio here. I would speculate, Anki, that probably other than Dutch speakers, you'd be really happy if none of us knew you and you were just a journalist. But we're thrilled that you're here with us as a voice, a moral voice, a voice of somebody who stood up and helped face some of the challenges that we've had as a nation and as a people. I do want to acknowledge some of the things that you've done in terms of leading a campaign to get the Germans to acknowledge their culpability in the failed rescue of the athletes, and also the IOC, International Olympic Committee, to be sure to hold a moment of silence in memory of our athletes. So I hope we'll get to speak about that. Ori Sasson, who's great, set himself up with probably that's just a fraction of his medals that we're seeing. He's probably got another all of them somewhere else in his home. Ori is a Jerusalem native, the only one of our panelists today who's actually born here in Israel. And I'm dying to learn, if you will tell us later about your family's background and when they came to Israel. He's dedicated most of his life to judo, and he's quite accomplished. He's won gold medals in international competitions in Prague, Tbilisi, and Estonia. He's won silver medals in Azerbaijan, and I think there was another place, but forgive me. And of course, the Olympic medal, the bronze medal in Rio 4 years ago in 2016. Of course, Ori and Beatie, who I'll introduce in a moment as well, we so would much rather having this conversation with you just back from Tokyo, having had amazing experiences this year, but unfortunately the Olympics, like many other things, are on hold. So we'll talk about what's coming up for the rescheduled Olympics. One of the reasons, other than the fact that Ori is a giant here in Israel, and in fact my son's watching Ori, he's a big fan, so you can say hi to Yishai in a few minutes. One of the reasons that Ori's known, of course, is that he's a growing number of Olympians who have taken home medals from the Olympics, and we're thrilled about that. But unfortunately, he also faced a really unusual challenge in a competition that didn't happen against an Iranian who withdrew, and a competition which he won against an Egyptian on his way to the bronze medal in 2016, which had an unpleasant ending, albeit that Ori won the match and ultimately his medal. And we'll talk about that soon, but connecting Anki and Andre from 48 years ago, and you 4 years ago, and Beatie, I want to talk about you. We're a great nation, but we're a nation that unfortunately still faces challenges. Beatie is a New Jersey native like I am, and she's outstanding on a whole number of levels, because she's not just the first Orthodox woman who's ever qualified to represent Israel in the Olympics as a marathon runner, but she runs, as you see, dressed modestly according to Jewish tradition. He's won in Israel, Tiberias Marathon, Jerusalem Marathon, and the Israel Half Marathon. Forgive me if I'm missing one. And one of the things that I think is so cool, that you have the distinction of running the Tel Aviv Marathon while seven months pregnant, and finishing in a time that's awesome for anybody, pregnant or not. So kol hakavod. She also ran her first international marathon earlier this year, last year, and won in Riga as well. So she's, again, qualified. We would have loved for her to be showing us her medal from Tokyo this year. Hopefully that'll be from next year. But one of the challenges that makes Beatie also unique is that as an Orthodox woman, when her race was moved to Saturday, to Shabbat, she elected to forfeit the opportunity to participate rather than violating the Shabbat. And Beatie, I hope we'll have a chance to talk about that and how you're reaching out to appeal to the International Olympic Committee so that hopefully when you qualify for the rescheduled marathon, it will be on one of the 6 other days of the week and you can show the world what you've got.
Sure.
Let's jump into some questions. I have 2 questions generally and then and a dialogue, and hopefully people will pop up and we're going to do our best to ask questions. Again, everyone, please use the Q&A format. But the 3 of you each have different unique stories as far as your family experience that brought you to Israel. And I'd like to ask if you could just briefly share what motivated that. What was unique in your own family experience as far as fulfilling being here now and fulfilling the prophetic ingathering of the exiles. Beatie, alphabetically, would you like to begin?
One second. Can you start with someone else? Because my kids are sitting a little
Ori.
bit. They haven't got this.
Ori, as the native Israeli whose family made Aliyah. Tell us about that.
First of all, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be with you tonight. Hi Anki. Hi Mate. Thanks Jonathan for this amazing opportunity. Actually, my story is, well, I born in Jerusalem, born and raised. Started to train in judo since I was 9 years old because of my brother Alon, and he was the Israeli champion for a long time. And he was kind of my model. I wanted to be like him. And I remember one day he told me, Ori, come, try this amazing sport. I told him, no way. I prefer to be in my house, play the PlayStation, be with my friends. Why should I put some white uniform on me and trying to do some stuff? I want to be in my comfort zone. And suddenly I changed my mind, and I remember that the first time I was playing judo, I just fall in love in the smart way to throw your opponent on the back and on the same time respect him. You can be your best friend before the fight and after the fight, but during the fight you're playing together this beautiful game. And I felt like I had a much more confident training after training. And my dream was to be like Alon, like him. He was the European champion. He won the title when he was 19. As a child, I saw him and felt very proud. And of course, my family supported all the time with, I just wanted to be like Alon, but in the end, I wanted to be like Ori and to bring Olympic medal for Israel. And all the medals you see here, they are part from the big medal, from the Olympic medal. The European Championship, that one is I won in Kazan, silver medal in 2015. This one from Abu Dhabi, when they took our flags out. We're gonna talk about it later. I have a lot of stories from each medal, for each medal, but of course the main medal is the Olympic bronze medal I won in Rio 2016.
Sure.
It was an amazing moment for me, for the whole country. And since then, I'm just trying to get another medal for Israel, for me, and just doing what I love, representing Israel.
God willing, you do it well. Ori, just for a moment before I go to the other panelists, tell us, if I'm not mistaken, your family, someone in your family came from where originally?
Okay, my mom.
Who made Aliyah and when and why?
My mom came from Romania. My grandfather was in the Holocaust. He was a survivor, and she when she was 4 years old. My father born in Israel, but his father born in Persian. And so I'm a half Persian, half Romanian.
Got it.
And
Got it. Good. Again, a beautiful depiction of the ingathering of the exiles and a beautiful representative of Israel. Anki, can we go to you? You've got also a great story originally from Holland. Tell us about what brought you here briefly. We'll get into that a little bit more on a personal basis, and being the veteran that you are.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Jonathan, for having me. And I would like to really send my good greetings, first of all, to Beatie. I admire her for the things that she is doing with 5 kids. Doing this top sport is really, really amazing. And then my very good greetings to my dear friend, Ori. He is not only a top athlete, he is also a top human being. So I'm very honored that I'm together with you guys. So for me, it was a very simple reason why I came to Israel. And it's almost 50 years ago that I did so. I'm from Holland, was living in Holland. And then I decided to take up fencing. And the first club was the Abrahams Club, alphabetic order. So I phoned and I went there. And I had a coach there who spoke Dutch, but he had a slight accent. So I thought he came from East Europe or something, I had no idea. And then at one point I found out that he was from Israel. And the rest is history, because I just followed him to Israel because he was in Holland for 2 years to become a better national trainer. And he was supposed to go back, and I went back to him with him, and we were living on the Lebanese border. And I come from The Hague, with the concert halls and with ballet and whatever you want. And I suddenly found myself on the Lebanese border in this small settlement. But that was the most beautiful year in my life. And I've never, ever regretted that I made that step. And I'm still here.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Beatie, how about you? You're the newest immigrant, the newest Israeli among us. What motivated that? Tell us about your return home.
It's funny because when you mentioned like always from Jerusalem, I wanted to be like, well, I'm also from Jerusalem. Like I almost consider Jerusalem my home, even though I only made Aliyah. I made Aliyah like 11 years ago. But I was very blessed that my parents used to bring us to Israel for all the holidays, for Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuot. And it really gave me an opportunity just to feel like this is my land, like I'm so comfortable here. When I came to Israel the year after high school, I was 18 and I said, I'm never leaving. Like, this is it. I'm here for good. And that's true. The next year I met my husband in Israel, and I told him we're staying put. We're not moving anywhere else. And we got married and moved right back to Israel. And I am very, very blessed to be here. Every day grows even fonder for me. Like I feel so lucky that I'm living here, and there's nothing like being home. It's really home for me.
That's right. Now, just as an aside, how many of your kids were born here? All of them, because
so 4 out of my 5 kids were born here, because we did like a mission in Tucson, Arizona for 2 years. We worked with Jewish college students on campus, knowing we were going to come back to Israel. So one of my children was born in Tucson, Arizona, but the rest were born here.
Got it. Okay, terrific. Before we continue with some questions, again, we're here. We can't forget, and I don't think it can be overstated, the significance of this week. It's not the 40th anniversary. It's not the 50th anniversary yet. But this week was the anniversary, all the same, of the terror attack in which Andre was murdered and 10 other of our athletes. We have a video that was from the live broadcast on the U.S. Television at that time. I'd just like to share it to set the tone of some of our other dialogue. Go ahead, Virginia. Maybe. I don't think that's working. Virginia, I think we're going to have to pause and reset that. Are you able to stop what's happening now, I'm not hearing the audio. Is anyone else hearing the audio?
No.
No, okay, so that was Jim McKay. We'll try it again in a minute. I'll just set Virginia, if you can see if it works, that's great. If not, we'll just set the stage. During the initial attack and hostage taking, and Anki, of course, feel free to correct me if I'm missing something. Jim McKay, who was the US broadcaster at the time, Kate was waking up in the middle of the night and was asked to come on, and he broadcast, as I understand, for 14 hours nonstop. And when you follow other videos of his, he talks about that being one of the most critical events in his broadcasting career. And so you're seeing that with him broadcasting what was happening there. There was initially a belief that the hostages were okay, and then there was the horrible news that they had all been killed. And you see him reporting at the very end. I don't know if we'll get to see it, but it's on our YouTube page if anyone would like to go and see, in a longer interview with him, talking about how no, it was not correct, and the hostages, the Israeli Olympic team, were all gone. Setting that stage, I mean, I watched that today in preparation. Anki, I can't imagine that doesn't stir lots of emotions with you. And Beatie and Ori, I'm curious if each of you would share, just from your own perspective. Ori, you've been in the Olympics. Beatie, you've not yet been there, but you, God willing, will. And Anki, this is part of your personal history. It's not just a national history. How does the memory of the terror attack motivate you and your preparations for the Olympic Games, whether you're training as the two of you are, or Anki as you're making plans to go? And if you don't mind, Anki, I'd like to start with the others, because they're the ones who are actively training to represent us in the coming year. Beatie, you haven't been there yet. Where does that come into your consciousness when you're training?
Well, first of all, just like realizing what it means to be a visibly observant Jewish woman on an international stage, and the weight of that. And I mean, it definitely was something I thought about when I went public, kind of with a request to ask the Olympic Committee to possibly accommodate my being able to race in the marathon and switch the date of the women's marathon from Shabbat to Friday. And just realizing, like, this is not the first time that there have been, that it's not always easy to be a Jew in this world. And that but we have to be able to continue to speak up and be proud of it, and not let unfortunately, I'm not saying I feel any hate as a result of what I'm experiencing, but just realizing that what athletes have gone through in the past, like, it also makes me appreciate the opportunities that I have, and not to take it for granted, and that we can compete safely, and recognize every time we go out, like, just that it's a blessing that we're able to have that opportunity. Sure. I'm honestly really humbled to be sharing this panel with Anki. Like, it's very inspiring to hear, you're a woman of so much strength, and I really can't imagine what it's like for any of those families. My heart really breaks, because, and it's just, to me, sport is the opportunity for us to all come together. It breaks down so many barriers. It's a way for us to connect on such a universal human level. And it's so devastating to think that in an arena of the Olympics, where the goal is to unite us, that something like that could happen. So it's really, when I think about it, that's what saddens me the most. And I just, pray that we continue to move past such incidents like that, and only bring more unity through sport.
Thank you. Beautiful. Ori, without getting into the specifics of 2016, we'll come up to that. Anki shared with me that there's a memorial that you go to before you leave as an Olympic team. Tell me about how does Munich impact Ori Sasson training and competing?
Well, I heard about what happened in Munich since I was very, very young. And I met Anki I think maybe 1 month before I flew to the Olympic Games, we went all the team together to the monument. I think I said it right, in Tel Aviv, of all the sportsmen that died in Munich, and you can't. When you're standing there and hearing the stories and see the sadness in the face of Anki and the other families, I felt that my goal is to bring Olympic medal for those people. This is what I felt, because I know that how much they suffer all those years. And for me, it's like a boost of motivation, not hate, motivation, to prove everyone that Israel here forever. And when I won the Olympic medal, this is the first thing I felt. I felt like I did the right thing for my country. So I take all those things to a good way. When I'm on my way to the fight, I think about the flag. It's not a regular flag, it's a really special flag. Very important flag for me, deep in my heart. And I hope one day all those things will be out of the sports. This is my hope. I think, so I agree with Batel. We just want to make our dream come through without any hate. Just hope.
Thank you. Anki, before you talk about it again, we'll get into some specifics, but maybe generally, because you do follow and you're at the Olympics on a regular basis. There's a woman, Darlene Herman, who's watching now, and she's just sending her best. She was there in Munich, a 13-year-old, and her stepfather was working for Goodyear, which I guess must have been one of the sponsors of the Olympics, and that was a memory of hers as well. But share your memory. You're still traveling around the world, and I don't know how many Olympics you've been to in recent years, and if that's an every 4-year thing. But how does that motivate you still? What's driving you vis-a-vis the Olympics and Munich?
Well, you see, Jonathan, I think for every athlete, the biggest dream is not only going to the World Championships or to the European Championship. The biggest dream is to go to the Olympics. Why? Because everybody wants to be part of this festival of brotherhood and peace and love, and, with the expectation that you can change the world and meet people that otherwise you wouldn't be able to meet. And for us, athletes like Beatie and Ori, they are for us, the families, our hope and the answer to everything that happened there in Munich. So for us, it's extremely important to be there with them, because they opened the way for us to see the future and have hope that the Olympic idea is still alive. Personally, I still believe in the Olympic idea, even after all that happens, because I believe that people can get together by meeting each other, by not taking care of borders or race or gender or whatever. And the biggest example, if I may give it to you, Andre and I were in the Olympic Village together in Munich. And at one point he saw the Lebanese team and the fencing team. And he said, Anki, I'm going to speak to them. I said, are you crazy? They are our enemies. We have a war with Lebanon. And he said, well, that's exactly why I'm here for. Here there are no borders. And I stayed a little bit behind, and he went there, and I saw that he spoke to the people and they shook hands. And I will never forget when he turned around and he came back to me with a huge smile on his face. And he said, you see, Anki, that's why I came here for. And I will never forget that. So I still believe in the Olympic ideas. And athletes like Beatie and Ori and the other Olympic candidates, they are for me the hope that someday it will be like Ori just said, like he wanted to be.
Beautiful, thank you. So let me jump into some more specific questions for each of you, and I hope this, by the way, this can be a dialogue. I actually feel personally, if nothing else comes out of our conversation tonight, the fact that I have the privilege of bringing the three of you together like this, where you're each kind of connecting and touching and inspiring, and it's just, for me, that's a privilege. So thank you for that. It's beautiful. We'll do this again. We'll do this again after you come home from Tokyo, the two of you with medals. Okay, is that a deal?
In real life.
You're on. You're on.
I know.
Anki, you just shared that beautiful story, which I had read about online with Andre reaching out to the Lebanese team. Many people maybe watching this never heard of Munich, never knew that there was a terror attack. And conversely, many people like myself know it significantly, and it's a part of our consciousness and history. What can you share that may be least known, among the least known things that happened then, but that's most significant? And you probably just did, but share us another one. What's something really significant that happened in any context of Munich that we probably don't know about?
Well, I think that, our fight to have a minute of silence at the opening ceremony at the Olympics is not only because I want everybody to know who was André Spitzer. I know who he was, and that's more than enough. And my daughter, who was only a little baby of 2 months old when her father was killed, she knows who he is because of my stories that I tell her. But I want the world to stand still for a moment. And I want the International Olympic Committee at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, when there are millions of people watching, and when 10,000 athletes are standing out in the field, when they open the games, when they march in and everything. So then I want them to say, let us not forget what happened in Munich, so that it will never happen again. That is the message. Everybody should take a vow when they're standing there and say, I am going to do it differently. I am here with athletes from all over the world, and we will have to communicate. And everything that happened in Munich, that should never happen again. That is really my message. That's why I want to do it. I cannot understand why the International Olympic Committee doesn't do this, because we have been fighting this for 48 years, going to all the Olympics, knocking on every door and writing every letter that's possible, and trying to explain why we find it important, not out of hatred or any negative things. We want it to be positive. And then they tell us, well, it's too early. You are bringing politics into the Olympic Games. It's the biggest political organization that exists. But anyways, so, and you shouldn't do this now, and it's not the time yet, And we say, look, we want this to happen. And then I will go home. Because if you don't do it, this is justice. You owe it to these people because they were part of your Olympic family. They were not just accidental tourists, They were part of the Olympic family, and they were killed inside the Olympic Games. So the least you can do is stand up and give them a minute of silence for positive reasons. And that's what we are fighting. We haven't gotten it yet. We have made a little bit of progress. In Rio, they had a meeting inside the Olympic Village with a minute of silence. And I said to the president of the Olympic Committee, I said, you made a historic step, because we have been waiting for this for such a long time, but it is not enough. I'm still waiting in Tokyo that you're going to open the games and say something about it. And I said, and you will not get rid of me. I'm already old, but if I cannot do it anymore, my children and the children of my children, they will come after you until you do the right thing, because the world should remember, because who doesn't remember history, he doesn't have a future. That's all.
Well, first of all, amen, thank you, and God willing, that will be realized in Tokyo 2021 or the following year, wherever that, I don't know where that's supposed to be. And as you speak about your children, I think we all watching, whether we're Jews or Christians, can take on that responsibility and help speak out, and we'll be in touch. We'll stay in touch with you and share with our participants and followers here how we can be involved with that. Ori, before we talk about your Olympic experience, just again, something a little more personal. You mentioned earlier that you started judo as a young child, which means that you also had in the middle of that, approximately the middle, your Army service here. Tell us about your Army service and how were you able to keep up with training?
Okay, first of all, I want to say for Anki that I was there in Rio, standing 1 minute for for all the people who died in Munich, and I think it was a big winning, deserved to because of Anki. You know, I won the medal, but she won for all of us. We stand there and we were so excited. Really, it was amazing. So thank you for that, Anki. Thank you for that. About your question, in Israel, if you're Israeli champion, you have the ability to go to the army a few times a week. On the same time, training morning and evening in Wingate Institute. This place located near to Netanya, 20 minutes from Tel Aviv. So I used to go to the base in Tel Aviv, Kriya it's called, and from there I came back to Wingate training, and again and again and again. Actually, the country support me a lot in this case and help me to not miss training. Otherwise, this is very important time period. When you're 18 until 21, you need to be stronger. You need to be more confident. If you don't train enough, it can really hurt you. So I was lucky to have a good commando officer,
Yes.
Who helped me a lot.
Great. Glad to hear that. Now, I'd like to jump into the experience in Rio, but before I do, hopefully the video will work this time. I want to pull up the video of the end of your match from Rio against the Egyptian competitor. Hopefully the audio will work. No, the audio is not working, but you can see what's happening there. Just leave it on for a minute, Virginia. It's okay, let it keep going. What we see is this is right after the match. I've watched this a number of times. Ori, I'm sure you stream it.
I think I did miss it. In fact, he's been called back here. The rules of the sport demand he must not have bowed to his opponent. And, well, Sasson went over to shake his hand and he backed off. So if you want to call that a bow, there it was. That's very disappointing. Now, we talk about that's what the Olympics is about. That's what it's not about. And to his credit, Sasson is just moving on with the cape. We'll get a look at the replay of how it happened, but just spend a second on what we saw there.
Well, Mark, you're an outsider coming in, having a look here at how, you know, the rules of our sport dictate absolute respect for the opponent.
I think that was the end of it. Oh, we're seeing the beginning of it again. But yeah, Virginia, you can stop that now. So when I first paid attention to that video for tonight's program, I thought, wow, what horrible audio. It's so noisy there. And then I realized instantly, and then you hear it in the narration of what's going on, is that the whole crowd is booing your competitor. What was that like? You know, that we, unfortunately, we also know you, not just from the bronze, but from that experience. How did you feel after defeating him? But how did you feel after he wouldn't shake your hand? And
okay, so let's start in the beginning. When I was in my parents' house in Jerusalem, I heard I'm going to be against this Egyptian fighter, El Shaabi, his name. I knew it's going to be a very difficult fight, not only because he's judo style, because all the country going to speak about it. You know, the media, the articles, he's going to show in the fight. He's not going to show. I was really stressed. And a few moments before the fight, I felt he was really nervous. I was nervous. And I felt like it's not a fight only about our dream. It's a fight for the whole country, for each one. But I remind myself that I cannot bring the politics to the sport. I just went to the fight, doing my best job, judo, throwing him on his back, and deep inside, I believed that if I'm gonna shake his hand, even though I know the Egyptian fighter, most of the time they don't shake our hands, but I was really believed that in this crazy event, when all the people all over the world watch it, he will do it. He will shake my hand. It was opportunity for something positive, for something better for the world, but he denied. And of course, I heard all the boo, but I was so focusing on the next fight that actually I just went out, came back to the backstage, and focused on the next fight. That was only when I finished the competition, I saw all the messages from people all over the world, actually from Egypt, people who ignore what he did, people from Israel, and people remember me more than the Olympics remember me because of the situation, but I don't think it's good. I mean, I prefer they will remember me for the medal, not for the bad thing that happened.
Well, for the medal, but I also just want to comment. First, being a tremendous somebody, I saw comments that are coming in. Somebody who's here in Israel is really proud of you and how you've represented us, and grateful for that. We all are. I mean, that's just one of the comments that's come in. But it shows that you're a professional. That this is you, and you've really, and you're not letting the noise get into your head.
No, it's in judo. One of the most important things is to respect your opponents. The Olympism build on respecting and the values and all those stuff. I don't know something else. This is what I'm doing since I was a child. Going to the mat, doing like this, shake the hand of my friend, and it was, for me, it was really a regular acting. But I know that for other people from all over the world, it was really strange to see someone trying to shake hand and someone ignoring. I know.
Sure. Well, thank you for that, and I'm glad that those watching now and those who will watch by video, just as you said so beautifully, you don't want to be known for that incident. You want to be known for the medal, and I hope you'll be known for a gold in the next one. But I also am glad that we have the privilege of you sharing that little bit so people get to know what's inside your heart, and I'm grateful for that. Beatie, if we can move on to you. I guess, well, tell us how you evolved from being the mother of 4, eventually 5, to now being an Israeli Olympian in such a short time, specifically that you only began running, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016.
Yeah, so I ran my first marathon in February 2016. I really never ever thought it was going to take me where it took me. I was just like one of those moms trying to get back in shape, had 4 kids in 6 years. And I was really hooked on running from the beginning. And I did see that the first thing I learned that I always share is just that we have so much more strength within us than we realize. And, when I ran that first marathon, 4 months before, when I signed up for it, my husband asked me, so do you think you can finish the marathon in 4.5 hours? We were doing the math, that's 10 minutes per mile. And I was like, no way, no pressure. The only thing in my mind was I'm going to finish, right? I don't want any pressure, no time. And about a month before the marathon, my husband actually suggested, maybe you should set a time goal for yourself, see what you're capable of. And he encouraged me to go out and run a half marathon time trial. And I did that by myself. I ran 13 laps around the park in Jerusalem, massacre. And I came back and I told him, I'd been feeling good. By the end, I got faster and faster. And I was like, oh, it took me 1 hour and 41 minutes. And he told me based on that, I should be able to run the marathon in 3.5 hours. And I remember when he said that, I was like, you're nuts. It was the most terrifying thing. But he really encouraged me to. He got me a watch, he programmed it. And by the time, and I ran that first race in 3 hours and 27 minutes. And by the end of the race, I was passing every runner there. And it showed me that the only way we grow in life, the greatest growth in life happens when we step out of our comfort zone. And we can only discover who we're meant to be when we take those risks and do those things that are uncomfortable. If I had said, oh, I want to be comfortable, I don't want pressure, I don't want to push myself, I really wouldn't be sharing my story tonight. I would never have even known that I was a good runner, because I never ran fast when I was training. And only because I said, okay, I have this goal, I'm going to take this risk, I'm going to do something, I have no idea whether I'll succeed or fail at it, but I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and go for it. And that's what led me down the path. Now, even at the time, I didn't think I was training for Olympic medals. I just thought I like running and I'm good at it. And it evolved. I ran a marathon the following year, 7 months pregnant. And then after that, I was like, hey, maybe I could win a race. I won the Jerusalem Marathon. And then I started to train more seriously. And I won the Israel National Championship Marathon in 2019. And at that time I ran a 2:42, which was, you know, at the time under the qualification for the 2016 Olympics. So that's when Israel reached out to me and said, like, they didn't know who I was. They're like, where'd you come from? You know? But they said, we'd like to, like, you know, help support you in training. And
Right.
I was really, and I will just say that running it's totally a gift from God. Like, I don't take it for granted. You know, obviously every athlete knows you have to put hard work in, but for me, it's really important to remind myself and always say, like, I can't take the credit for this. The fact that I've done so well, the fact that I've won races, it's complete.
Uh-oh. You there? We lost you. Is it just me?
No, she's out.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to come back, Beatie. We're waiting for you to come back. That's actually really beautiful. I hope that we'll get you back soon because I have a follow-up question to that. So, Ori, let me just go back. I mean, I think maybe you answered it, but when you're competing and you're going all over the world, so you're competing, you had an experience where there was an Iranian who refused to compete against you. Are you mindful of international diplomacy? You talked about how you thought maybe the Egyptian wouldn't shake your hand and they don't do that. And have you ever experienced other problems or tell us about that?
Well, 2011, I fought in European Open, if I'm not wrong, Kazakhstan. I drew against Iranian fighter in the semifinal, and he won't show up. And so I was automatically, I went to the final. When I finished the competition with silver medal, I saw him in the backstage crying, and I felt so sorry about it because
Wow.
I know that he didn't want to quit. He wanted to fight against me. He was very talented. He was bronze in the world, someone with really tough judo style, but because of his country, he couldn't fight. So this was, and since then, I know every time I saw him, I felt like I wanted to give him a hug, but
That'd be great.
you can't do it. You can't do it in because they don't talk to us, the Iranian fighter. Only the one who fight against Sagi Muki.
Right.
They really love Israel.
Right. Beautiful. Right,
yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
one more. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No. I want to move back to Beatie. We lost you at a great point.
Sorry.
Talking about your running and also your obviously recognition of the God's giving you these opportunities. Very inspiring, and it's really nice because that's what we call the program, Inspiration from Zion. If you can, though, so I think most of our participants are not Jewish, don't necessarily know how we observe Shabbat and why it's a conflict for an Orthodox woman. Well, first of all, why it's unique and unusual, perhaps for an Orthodox woman even to be running like you are, but most significantly, why when the race was scheduled on Saturday, why is that a conflict? And explain how you dealt with it and obviously what must have been a difficult decision to withdraw from your position that was supposed to have been in Tokyo this year.
Well, I think that, you know, as an Orthodox woman, it really is also a cultural thing. I just didn't grow up with a lot of opportunities for competitive sports. There's no reason that it should be like that. It's changing. I'm trying to make changes, but like I also didn't go to regular college. I didn't have, high school cross country teams. We didn't have any of that. But I think that exercise is really healthy and beneficial. So I think more and more Orthodox communities are recognizing that and giving women the opportunities. And in recent years, I've seen a lot more women running in Israel. And I'm really happy about that. And I really try to encourage and support women all the time to get out there and run for themselves. In terms of Shabbat, the truth is, so if someone was just running from sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday, I don't do any work, any creative activities, any form of any running. If someone was just running out of pure enjoyment, just because they simply love it so much and they want to get out there and move their body, that would be okay. But since running is my job, it's what I do for my profession, and I'm sponsored by Israel to do it. I make money through running, and so that would be the main reason why I couldn't run in a game, in a race on Shabbat. And I've actually already, I missed out on the 2019 World Championship Women's Marathon was also a Friday night. And then coming up now, the half marathon championships in Poland is also on Shabbat. And the truth is, though, I think running is very much compatible for religious women, like for any religious athlete. Most of the marathons actually are normally on Sunday, and in Israel, the races are always on Friday. So it's not normally an issue for me. And in almost all in every other Olympic Games, the marathon was always on a Sunday. So, if I made a request to see if it's possible to switch it around, and with the race walk, I know people think I'm kind of crazy for asking them for one person, why should they make any change in the schedule? But the Olympics have accommodated, they made accommodations for Muslim athletes in 2012. They didn't change around the dates, but they changed endurance events to be earlier in the schedule. They worked with them. So there is a precedent for it. And I want to, if I can't run in the race, that's fine. Like, I know there'll be other opportunities. And to me, I always say, like, the only thing I take with me from this world is like the choices I make, and staying committed to my values and beliefs is the most important thing I could do. So that's something I'll take with me for the rest of my life, forever. That's eternity. So, even if it's unfortunate that I worked really hard to get there and I'm not able to compete, it's something I'll do very proudly.
That's beautiful, and it kind of connects to what Ori was saying in terms of his humanity, seeing the Iranian competitor crying, and even Anki, what you were saying, something that Andre exhibited by reaching out to the Lebanese team the way he did, and I don't know if that's universal among all athletes. I guess all athletes are human, so we have our flaws and limitations, but I think that's really beautiful. Anki, not looking back, but what could you have imagined in the aftermath of Munich that we would be in a situation here, that we've got Ori representing us, who brought home medals, and several others who have brought home medals, and Beatie in the such the unique position that she is, electing not even to go because of her religious observance? What do you think about that with your historical perspective, but also as a journalist today?
So first of all, I greatly admire, the whole human attitude of Ori, towards these other athletes, and definitely also the whole attitude of Beatie, because they go for their principles, and that's excellent. And I think that Israeli sport will have a future because everybody is dedicated. And what happened in Munich 48 years ago, it's still resounding today, but we have to look forward. And we have to, when I came back from Munich after the massacre, I was filled with anger. I was so angry. How could they do this to a 27-year-old man who was only a good person? He didn't do anything to anyone. And I was in the room right after, a few hours after the massacre, and I looked around and I saw the blood coming down the stairs, and I saw the bullet holes in the walls, and I saw that they the chaos in that room where they were kept hostage was enormous, with all the blood all over the place. And they brought them food, but nobody wanted to eat, of course, and they didn't let them go to the bath. It was a terrible disaster. And I was standing there and I said, is this the place where my peace-loving young husband, who just had a baby daughter, you know, if that's what he spent his last hours of his life, I cannot stop talking about it. I have to tell about it so that it will not happen again. And, you know, but I came home and I was very, very angry the first couple of months. And then at one point I took a hold of myself and I said, how can I raise my baby daughter with hate in my heart? I cannot do that. I have to make a switch. I must make a switch, because you cannot raise children with hate in your heart. And if you allow me, when we went in Atlanta in 1996, there were Olympic Games, and we decided to bring all the orphans. There were 14 children left after the athletes were murdered. 4 of them were not married, but there were 14 kids. In the meanwhile, they were teenagers, and I decided to take them to the Olympic Games in Munich, because they lived their whole life in the shadow of the Olympics. And I wanted to show them the glory of how the teams come in. And then I heard that the Palestinian team for the first time was walking also inside the stadium. So I gathered the kids and I said, look, there is a Palestinian team coming in. What a delegation also, together with all the other delegations. What are you going to do? And they looked at me, all of these kids, and they said, oh, we are going to do the same thing as we do to the other delegations. We are going to stand up and applaud them, because they have nothing to do with what happened to our fathers. That was many years ago, and these are also athletes. And I looked at them and I thought to myself, well, that's victory. This is what I wanted, not to raise these kids with hate in their heart, because they didn't have hate in their heart. And then in the aftermath of the opening ceremony, I tried to find the delegation leader, and I found him, a Palestinian guy, and I said, look, tomorrow we have a big memorial service in Atlanta. And all the kids are here. Would you please come? If you are more than invited to meet them. And he came with his delegation. There were 4 or 5 people, and they came and they met the kids, and they embraced each other, and they were together with us at the memorial service. And I think that was, for me, my personal biggest victory, that there was no hate.
Beautiful. Thank you. So actually, what I with that, and I'm going to ask you the question, although I think you may have just answered the question that I was going to answer you. I want to go around and just ask you each one more question. I'm trying to then scroll through the beautiful comments that are coming in on the Q&A, and everyone watching, we're going to try and get to them. And I realized that as soon as I don't know if we get to save these comments. I think we do, but I want to share them with you all so you can see the beautiful comments and encouragement that are coming in from people around the world on all of your behalf. But Anki, I was going to ask you a question. Can you share something positive, something even hopeful that's come out of this? Was that maybe your answer in terms of bringing the kids, or is there something else that you can think of if I point that question to you specifically?
No, I think for me, the positive thing is that there are still Olympics, and that Israel is participating as a full-time members and with very, very good results. And for us, that is closing the circle. If our athletes like Uri and Beatie and the other candidates, if they are going to the Olympics and they are going to be part of this whole experience, I said, that is for us the closing of the circle. That's the answer to this terrible massacre.
So we're never going to forget the massacre. We're never going to forget our athletes, but we also hope that kind of in a sense that what Ori was saying, that he'd rather be known just for the bronze than for the incident with the Egyptian. Let's hope that Ori will continue to bring home medals. Beatie will get her opportunity to compete, not on Shabbat, and bring home a medal, and that we'll have many other. So we have that sad history, but that sad history will always continue to be the foundation for something that's beautiful and inspiring. And I think all of you have said that in a different way. Ori, since you're the only one here right now who's actually won an Olympic medal so far. That was a wink at you, Beatie. What was that like? What were you thinking? I watched the video. I encourage people to go onto our YouTube and look at it. You were so emotional. What was going on in your mind?
First of all, I want to say to Beatie that I heard you, and you gave me a lot of inspiration. So thank you. Really, your story is amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing us, for me. So about your question. That was the most happy moment in my life because I was dreaming to be an Olympic medalist since I was 9 years old. You know, you go to sleep with the thought that your medal is on your neck. You just, every day, I get better and better for this goal, to be an Olympic medalist. And, you know, you pass a lot. I had injuries in my hand. In my knee, I broke the ligament twice. Many times I wasn't believe myself. I had big problem with believing, actually. For a long time, I saw myself as a cat, not as a lion, you know. And I did my breakthrough in 2015 when I was a silver medalist in the European Championship in Baku, European Games. Since then, something changed in my mind. I started to believe myself much more than ever. And I was looking at the ranking list, the world ranking list, saw myself at the top 20, and I told myself, if I'm in the top 20, why I cannot be in the top 3 in the world? So it was like, step by step, I did my best. Every day, every competition, I was trying to be better. When I lost, of course, I was sad. But the day after, I woke up and told myself, come on, go to training, trying to throw the opponents and do your best. This is the main goal. This is the most important. Fight like a warrior. Don't afraid from nothing. I mean, everyone afraid, but get it. You know, I have a tattoo here. Fear is only a state of mind. I did it when I was 23. And I really believe that everyone have fears, everyone not sure about their confidence, about themselves. But if you put like a small mission and another mission and another mission, you become a champion. This is the way. So this was the most important for me every day, to wake up in the morning, to eat good, and as you can see, I eat good. By the way, I'm fighting in the heavyweight, 100 plus kilograms. In pounds, I don't know exactly, but I'm fighting against huge monsters, people. And what's so beautiful in judo, that you don't need to be such a big and strong to beat the others. You need to be clever, you need to be fast, you need to be smart, and you need to be brave. And all those things I'm trying to get better and better every day. And I think the judo made me a better person. Because of the judo, I'm who I am right now.
Nice. That's beautiful. Well, we're grateful. First of all, you are a wonderful inspiration to us, and we're grateful for you. So keep it up, and we're going to continue to pray that you remain successful. I just want to give a note to Donna Calcaterra, who's going to come on with the official last question. So Donna, if you want to turn on your mic and unmute. But before that, Beatie, I'd like to come to you with a couple of questions wrapped into one. We have one of our board members, Dr. Dave Pitcher, who's also a marathon runner, watching, and he's asked 2 questions that are not leading into, but I'm asking anyway if you can answer. First of all, he wants to know who originated calling you Speedy Beatie. He wants to know if it was one of your kids. And the other question is, what's your favorite marathon that you've run so far? Maybe answer those, and then I want to give you while Donna comes on, I want to give you my kind of more significant, a little bit of a deeper question.
The funny thing about Speedy Beatie is that when I was younger in in elementary school, we used to just play like ball games, but I would always be the one that if the ball went out, I'd like run really fast and get the ball. So my friends would kind of joke I was Speedy Beatie, but like I never thought it would come back to kind of, you know, be my claim to fame much later on in life. And in terms of marathons, Tveria has a really special place in my heart because I had
Tiberius, for those who are not English.
Tiberius, yes. I just had 2 amazing marathon experiences there, even though I will say that it's a boring course. It's not a very nice, like, it's beautiful, but it's like pretty boring route. But just the experiences I had there were very powerful for me, so.
Well, some people, thank you. So some people don't know, we had invited you to participate in our Run for Zion program, which is around the Jerusalem Marathon this past March. And of course, that was canceled along with half of the other things in the world that have been canceled since March. But hopefully, when we have participants coming in, Elizabeth Wong is also a marathon runner who's watching. And hopefully when they get to come back and run Jerusalem, we'll get to connect you. I want to end. I see Donna. We don't see you, but oh, there we are. Great. So just hold on for a minute, and then you're going to have a minute. I'd like to ask Beatie, since we're now just over a week away from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In Judaism, it's the 10 days of repentance, the most sincere, holy time of year. So in preparing, I just kind of like your thoughts and feedback on this. In preparing for the program today, I kind of started thinking of a marathon as a metaphor for the season that we're in. And I don't know, I'm not a runner, I've never run. But when you're at some point in a marathon, you're giving every little bit of energy you've got in order to make sure you finish well. And I think that's kind of like the season that we're in now spiritually. And then yet again, you never stop training and you never stop running, because just as the 1 year ends, we're accountable for the next year, and the next year begins. What do you think of that metaphor, and what kind of inspiration, whether something crazy Jonathan just said or something of your own, that as we are in this awesome season, what sort of inspirational thoughts can you share as an Orthodox woman, as a runner, someone with aspirations to go much higher?
Yeah, to me, running is the greatest metaphor for life. Every time I come back from a run, I have some other new insight into just like my own personal life that I've thought of on the run, and I see so many parallels. In terms of, I think for me, what a marathon teaches us is just like, it's an opportunity to, when I say it's not about what does winning a marathon mean to me, it's not about being the first one in the race or getting the gold medal or whatever. It's about winning a marathon means showing up on that day and getting the most out of yourself, doing the best possible time you could. And at the end of the race, it's like you're fighting for seconds. I remember when I ran the 2:32 in Tveria, I was the final kilometers of that race were so difficult, but I was so focused on, I'm not going to give up 1 second here. And I crossed the finish line knowing that I had gotten every single like bit out of myself. And on Rosh Hashanah, what we do is we come before God and we say like, God, I want to take advantage of everything in this world. Like, I'm here to get the best out of myself. I want to become the best version of what I possibly can be. That's what I'm here for. And that's why you should give me another year of life in this world. Because like, I'm going to maximize my potential. So I think what I love about running is that it puts that spiritual process into a very tangible, real like experience. And when you go through that, you could then translate it to all the spiritual growth that you want, all the obstacles you experience on a personal level, and becoming the best version of yourself.
That is beautiful. Thank you. Donna, if you don't mind, we just got a text from Pastor Ray, who was going to come on and wrap up, that he's got to leave in 5 minutes. Can we ask you to do your question, save it, and ask our panelists to stick on for just a minute? And Ray, if you don't mind coming on, Virginia, you can get ready with those relevant slides. And then Donna, before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask you to come back and talk to the panelists. Ray, are you there? Great. So I just introducing, I didn't introduce Donna properly, I will. Our good friend, Pastor Ray Hardy, who's who's with us from just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, who's also a marathon runner. Ray, we don't see you, and who ran the Jerusalem Marathon in just a little more time than you did, Beatie, when he was here with us in 2019. Ray, we're looking for you. So there you are.
Hi, friends. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's awesome to be able to connect with so many of you. I think that today can be encapsulated. I'd like to say something specifically to Ori and Beatie and Anki. You know, there's a scripture from Isaiah chapter 62, "And nations shall perceive your righteousness, and all the kings your honor, and you should be called a new name which the mouth of God shall articulate. And you shall be a crown of splendor in the hand of God, and a royal headdress in the palm of your hand of your God. It shall no longer be said of you, forsaken one, or of your land no longer be said, desolate place for you. Shall be called, my desire is in her, and your land settled, for God's desire is in you, and your land shall be settled." Such a great metaphor to be able to thank you for what you have done in the past, Anki, what you're doing, Beatie, and Ori, now in the present, for the future. And it's just such an honor to be able to now make an appeal that I have put my money to my mouth with in the past. We want to ask you to support the work of what the Genesis 123 Foundation is doing. And as you're doing so, I would like to take just about 30 seconds as you're considering to do that. Jonathan is going to be putting up information about how you can go through the process of donating. But Anki, I would like to take this moment for us to take 30 seconds to be silent, to remember those who gave their lives in this honorable way, and also those in the present, Ori and Beatie, who are making this step to continue to represent God in such a powerful way. Let's pause for about 30 seconds if we can, and then I will pray. Dear God, our Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the gift of these who have given their lives so that you might be honored. And so now, Father, we honor you with the first fruits of what you give to us. And we thank you, God, for what you are going to do with this offering, with this gift back to you and this great Genesis 123 Foundation, Inspiration for Zion, Run for Zion, and all the things that are going around the world. We pray your blessings on Anki, on Beatie, on Ori, on Jonathan for drawing us together. In your powerful and mighty name, God, we ask. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to hold off on the rest of the announcements. Then maybe Donna and Beatie, Anki, and Ori, you can turn your cameras back on. And then I'll come back with the last couple of announcements. Folks, stay with us. We're going to just get one more question in. There we go. Well, I see me. Hopefully everyone else can make it back on. Donna, you there with us?
Let me
No, I hear you, just with the camera. Anki and Beatie, we see you're there, but we don't.
Well, the host
you.
has disabled it.
Okay. Oh, so
okay,
someone.
okay.
So hopefully that'll be. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am.
We're going to see if someone can, there we go. Donna's back up. I don't know if we have Ori still on, but go ahead, Donna. We spoke the other day and talking about this and Anki and specifically our athletes in Munich. What's your final thought before we do announcements and question for our panelists?
No, I just wanted to say I was watching the Olympics the year after the murders occurred, and I was appalled that they don't dedicate a minute of silence in memory of our murdered athletes. And for me getting outraged, that means I scream at the television. I use all sorts of 4-letter words to describe what's going on in the world. And then I did the most positive thing I could do by donating an ambulance in memory of our Munich 11. And that I call, that's my retribution. That's how I get back at the world and society when I get really angry. And you had a picture up on your wall before of our boys, the 3 boys that were kidnapped and murdered. Well, I donated an ambulance named after them that's still stationed in Jerusalem. And when I started to form my foundation, what I wanted to do was save Israeli lives, save Jewish lives, because everybody wants to wipe us off the face of the earth. And that's how I became involved with Mogen David Dome and the ambulances. We're building a blood center right now, a new huge underground blood center. I'm actively involved with the Friends of the IDF and supporting them. And
you're a board member of the Genesis 123 Foundation, for which we're privileged.
And not only that, I met Jonathan at AFMDA and we hit it off really well because I'm not religious and I'm not practicing and I don't speak a word of Hebrew. And Jonathan was able to enlighten me and give me all this information that I didn't know. So we founded the outreach program. I was the head of the department, the chair of the department, and Jonathan and I ran it together. So that's how we met, and that's why we're still together. So I also wanted to let you know I had met a man several years ago, Ernie Haas, who was at the time, he was a 91-year-old man and spent the war in 7 concentration camps. And when I met him, the first question he asked me was, have you ever heard of CUFI, Christians United for Israel? And I started to laugh. I said, of course, they donated all these ambulances to us. And he said, he was a big supporter of CUFI because during World War II, the only people that helped the Jews were the Christians, not the Lutherans, but true Christians. And he was eternally dedicated and devoted to them. And that's how I came even further in joining Jonathan's team here.
Wow.
Because just to hear that from a Holocaust survivor, meant a lot to me.
Well, Donna, you've been always a wonderful friend and inspiration, and obviously we know from you sharing now, and I have the privilege of knowing how generous you are, and I shared that with Anki the other day about the ambulance, but what's pulling us together here is the building bridges between Jews and Christians, and so we're so grateful for you wrapping that up here tonight with our panelists, and I hope that this has been the inspiration that we had intended for it to be. And I guess Ori had to go, Beatie, Anki, it's been just a delight. I watching the comments, and I'll share them with you by email or text just to see how you've touched other people today. And I love, Beatie, how you wrapped up, and I really do pray that a year from now we'll be able to celebrate great success if Tokyo's able to happen, and that you'll be able to be there and compete and be that exalted woman that you are, continuing to represent us and Ori as well and all of our other athletes. Thank you both. I'm going to just wrap up with a couple of announcements, and if Virginia, you can put up those last couple of slides. We have it's a tremendous variety of programs coming up and things that we're doing, and want to always encourage people watching today. We've created a terrific program called Verses for Zion, which you can get information at, inviting your children and grandchildren to connect with Israel, the land and the people, through the God of Israel and his word. at versusforzion.com. It's a biblical-based, age-appropriate activity for kids, for Christian children, at their pace, with their parents, with their friends, with their siblings, with their pastors, with whomever. So please check that out. And the next program, which we don't have a date on yet, but stay tuned. A few weeks from now, we were talking earlier about the holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur with Beattie, but I especially want to call to your attention. We plan some beautiful programs for Sukkot, the tabernacles, where we will be doing a virtual pilgrimage. And I really want to encourage people here to nominate your pastors, connect with us. We'd love to have additional participants, and yeah, and so join us and share with us your information, your thoughts from around the world. We've had the privilege of having people represented here from around the world on today's broadcast. So join us at gen123fdn@gmail.com. And finally, again, thanks with our sponsors, the Atlanta Israel Coalition and Host Ministries for today's program. Certainly, if anyone watching is interested in sponsoring one of our future programs, that would be great. But a big shout out to a great program next week that's hosted by the Atlanta Israel Coalition with the founders and leaders of Synovia, which is an Israeli company that's producing a really great mask. It's got a whole antibacterial piece built in. I've seen something about it, something I definitely look forward to joining, and I hope you will as well. You can get information. Excuse me, we're sharing it on our Facebook, and you can go to the Atlanta Israel Coalition Facebook page as well. So thanks for that. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been a delightful program. I hope you agree, and I hope you will continue to join us in the future. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, wherever you are, whatever time zone. Thank you to our panelists and sponsors. And if we're not in touch before, whether you're observing the holidays or not, that you should be inscribed for a wonderful year of health and happiness, and that we should all collectively in this pandemic find ourselves well into this coming year beyond the need for masks and other things that are dividing us, and rather building the bridges that we intend. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.